Hey, welcome back. I know it feels like it's forever away, especially if you step out the door. So maybe it's dangerous to even ask, but Becky, are you ready for fall?
Oh, I'm always ready for fall. I'm ready for the cozy weather, the food, the festivities, the colors that change. How can you not love fall?
Getting rid of humidity, maybe?
Oh, so yeah, real talk for a minute. Humidity has been a big struggle for me.
You can talk about that for a while.
It's been a struggle for me, but I'm reining it in.
Yeah.
My beginning of my 4th week, and I feel like I'm getting a little more under control, but back to fall. It's my happy
we're going to think fall thoughts, and I know you got a little help doing that as you got a head start on maybe a new favorite fall treat.
That's right. It's a green tomato pie. I know it sounds a little bit strange.
Yeah.
Trust me, it is the most delicious thing you'll ever have. But before we get to the goods, we had to start with the crust. Take a look. All right, Chef Darin, we are here at Chef Darin's kitchen table. What are we going to be making today?
Well, with it coming into fall, I thought we would do a green tomato pie. It sounds a little bit odd. You know, most people think of fried green tomatoes for the use of green tomatoes. So a green tomato is anywhere from tart to neutral to tart in flavor, not unlike an apple. And so by treating it like an apple, chances are your guests will never know that they were tomatoes. They'll be kind of thrown off because it tastes like apple pie, but it wasn't made with apples.
Ooh, okay.
So in our bowl here, we got 1 1/4 cups of flour. And then to that, we're going to add a teaspoon of sugar, ½ teaspoon of salt. Go ahead and dump that in.
Okay.
You're going to do the base of the crust, and I'm going to do the top crust.
Okay.
And the reason why we're not doing it together in one big batch is we actually need 2 types of crust when you're doing a fruit pie.
So yours is the base, mine's the top.
No, the other way.
The base just feels like a lot of stress. Seems like the most important part of the
Actually, well, it depends on how you look at it. It's all important.
Okay.
So, but if it makes it feel more important, yes, yours is the most important.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we got our dry ingredients mixed up. Then we have a total of 6 tablespoons of fat. We have 3 tablespoons each of butter and shortening. The reason why I like to use a combination is butter has great flavor, but has a lower melting point. So it's not going to give us as much flakiness, especially in the top. Shortening has a higher melting point.
This is our shortening, and that's our butter.
More flakiness.
Okay.
Yep. So we're going to take the chunks of butter, put those in. And then we're going to coat those, and you want to have the fat good and cold, and coat those with just get in there with your hands are clean, so get in there with your hands and coat the bits of butter with the flour. And then it'll probably be easier for you to use the pastry blender. So this is a little looped tool. And you're just going to get in there and just kind of work that and cut that. Yeah, you can also use a fork. You can use your fingers. Okay. I'll have you. You can do either one if you prefer to use your fingers or that. Either way.
No, I'll do. I'll use the crusher.
And then my shortening here, I'm going to leave in larger chunks.
Okay.
I worked my butter a little bit finer, but the shortening's going to be larger chunks. You're going to go ahead and work the shortening in about as fine as you did for the butter there.
All of it?
All of it, yeah. Then we're going to add in our water. And this can be the tricky part for making pie crust because it really depends on the type of flour. For pie crust, you generally want to use a bleached flour.
And why is that?
Because bleached flour produces more tender results. The gluten, which is what gives you the strength, is weaker in bleached flour.
Okay.
So anything where you want tenderness, you want to have bleached flour. But also, it depends on the degree to which you worked in your fat. The more fully you work the fat in, it's going to take less water. So what we're going to do, we'll start off with 3 tablespoons of water. And I'm just going to sprinkle that over the top.
Great.
And now that once we get water in there, you want to minimize your mixing as much as possible because water is what brings the proteins together that create gluten.
Okay.
And pie crusts, you want them to be tender, so generally you want to handle as little as possible once you get the water in there. What I want you to do, I'm going to do mine first and I'll show you. Take the fork, and we're just pushing this back and forth. We're not looking to bring it into a cohesive mass at this point.
Okay.
We're just kind of shuffling back and forth so that water can start to soak in. Okay, that looks good.
Okay.
Once it just starts to clump together like that.
It is, it's feeling doughy.
And then set the fork to the side. Now we're going to go, you can use parchment paper or wax paper for this.
Ooh, good.
So we're going to take this and we're going to dump this out onto the parchment paper.
Great. Keeps it from sticking. I do know that much about parchment.
The main reason why we're doing this is going to help keep us from keeping our warm hands off the dough. Because people, I find all the time watching people over the years in my classes, people fall into what I call mixing hypnosis. They get in there with their hands and they go back to childhood with Play-Doh and they just kind of keep mushing around.
Sure.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take opposite corners and bring that together. then opposite corners or sides again.
Very
Mush
smart.
it together. And we just kind of keep doing this until this
kneading
comes together. We're just not really kneading it as much as we're just bunching it up, really.
Oh, okay.
Kneading is a more active physical action. And once we get that like that, then what I usually do is I'll take one side and fold it over the other.
Okay.
Kind of pat that out. And then fold it over one more the other time. Yep. And at this point, we should be good to form that into a disc. Just get that in a nice little, about a 4-inch round disc.
Okay.
Forming into a disc is important because that's going to, by flattening it out, that helps it chill quicker. And we need to chill it for about 30 minutes before you roll it out, because otherwise, one, the fat will get too soft.
Sure.
And number two, this allows the starch granules to absorb the liquid and swell up, so it's going to be more tender. That's really the key part.
Terrific.
But by having it in a flat disc like this, it's going to be easier to roll into the circular shape that we need versus having a ball. We're going to wrap that up in the parchment paper, and that will get refrigerated.
It's like a dough patty.
Exactly. And you can make these up, chill them first, and then wrap it up and stick it in the freezer. So you could make up a whole bunch of discs of pie dough, chill them, put them in the freezer, and have them to use for the next several months at a time.
How long would you say is the maximum amount of time to keep it frozen?
In the freezer? Generally, with doughs like this, usually about 3 months is max. Keep it well wrapped, but after about 3 months, a couple things are going to happen. You have the greater potential for freezer burn to occur, and then also it can take on that funky freezer flavor the longer it's in there.
We don't love that.
No good. No funky freezer flavor. I'm going to put mine. Here's a little tip for you as well. When you have two like this, you're trying to remember, since I did the top crust, I'm going to put it on top when I put it in the fridge. So that way I can remember.
Makes sense.
Well, Becky, off to a great start there with the crust, but yes, we've only just begun.
We have making pies part 2, the filling